morning. Today is Wednesday, Yutes Oder Aleph. Tavshin Ayin Daled. We're in Teres Menachem Sefer Mamar. Tavshin Yud Aleph, Tavshin Yud Beis. In the Mamar of Shabbos Parshas Vayikra, Tavshin Yud Beis, Dibra Maschel Amzu Yatzarti. We are on page Reish Nun Beis. We are up to Eis Daled. Question was, why in this pasuk, in this verse, Amzu Yatzarti, this nation I created, does the Navi refer to the Jewish people with the expression zu, this, which seems to be reserved in order to indicate a very high level of revelation, of godly revelation, specifically to the prophecy, the level of prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu, which is different than the level of prophecy of all other prophets who prophesied with the word koi. So, Moshe Rabbeinu prophesied with the word zeh, this, which means a direct and open revelation of godliness. So why all of a sudden are all the Jewish people called zu, this? And also why is it in the feminine, zu, as opposed to zeh in the masculine? For example, in the pasuk, Ki amcha hagoyah hazeh, Hashem refers to the Jewish people as zeh, this, rather than zu, in the masculine rather than the feminine. Why are we here in the feminine? The Rebbe explained at length that the word zeh, in its true sense, can only be used for something that is in the realm of holiness, and more specifically, only really and truly in reference to Hashem Himself, because anything else is not really this. In other words, what you see is not the sum total of what it is, of its existence, because it's got something behind it that causes it to exist, or a deeper dimension. Whereas when you talk about Hashem Himself, that's it. That's the truest existence. Nevertheless, he said, Hashem created on the other side of Kedusha also a phenomenon known as Zeh, that Klippa could show itself, the opposite of Kedusha could show itself as Zeh, as the ultimate entity, so that there could be free choice and a challenge in man's service of Hashem, in order for man to actually earn his keep, as it were, in the fulfillment of the intention for which it was created, in order to make a dwelling place for Hashem. So gesund. Ois Dalet. Now the Rebbe said also that by virtue of the fact that a Jew cleaves to Hashem, and so on and so forth, because of that cleaving, and also because of the fact that Yisrael, the cleaving that of Yid and Hashem, because of the fact that Yid, Torah, and Hashem are one. In other words, when a Yid fulfills what Hashem wants him to fulfill, so by virtue of his cleaving to Hashem, the Yid also could be called Zeh, because it's the dimension of Hashem within him, as a result of that he is referred to as Zeh, or Zu. Now the Rebbe goes into more detail how this cleaving and connection to Hashem takes place, and why feminine, Zu. Ois Daled, chapter 4, page Reish Nun Beis. V'hinei hahiskashus im ha'atzmos yalei Moshe. This connection with the very essence of Hashem takes place through Moshe Rabbeinu. All of them are concerning whom it says, if you remember in the beginning, the Rebbe quoted from the Gemara in Menachos, where the Gemara says, Yavoi Zeh, it's an Agadic explanation. Yavoi Zeh, let this one come. V'yikabel Zois, and receive this, Mizeh, from this, La'am Zu, for this nation. So the word Zeh, or Zu, or Zois, has multiple references. Yavoi Zeh, let this one come. Who is that? Zeh Moshe, this is Moshe Diksiv, concerning whom it says, Ki Moshe Ha'ish, Ki Zeh Moshe Ha'ish. So we see that this man Moshe, that the word Zeh is a reference to Moshe. V'yikabel Zois, and he should receive this. What is that a reference to? What should he receive? Zu HaTorah. This is a reference to the Torah. Diksiv v'Zois HaTorah Shasam Moshe. This is the Torah that Moshe has put before the Jewish people. Mizeh, he should receive it from this. Who is this one? Zeh HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is a reference to Hashem. Diksiv Zeh Keli Vanveyu. This is my God, and I will beautify him. And he should give it L'Am Zu, to this nation, Eli Yisrael, this is to the Jewish people, etc. And the pasuk the Gemara brings is the pasuk that the Rebbe begins the Mamar with, Am Zu Yatzarti li. This is the nation I created for myself. V'hainu. What does that mean in other words? Moshe hu hamekasher es Yisrael u'mamshech b'hem b'chinas zeh. Moshe is the one that ties the Jewish people and draws into them this aspect, this dimension of zeh. As the Rebbe explained earlier, what is zeh? This revelation of the very essence of Hashem. Why indeed is Moshe the one that accomplishes this? That Moshe Rabbeinu is the one that ties the Jewish people to Hashem and causes that dimension of the very essence of Hashem to be revealed within them. Because Moshe is the one that connects and ties worlds and souls with godliness. That's the role of Moshe Rabbeinu. So that was Moshe Rabbeinu in his generation. This is also true for the expansion of Moshe in each generation. What's the expansion of Moshe in each generation? These are the heads of the multitude, the thousands, the multitude of the Jewish people in each and every generation. So they are the expansion of Moshe in each one of their respective generations. They are the ones that tie Yidden to the very essence of Hashem. And draw down within the Yidden this level, this aspect of what? Of Zeh. Okay, Mavur Baruch Betanya, as the Alter Rebbe explains at length in Tanya chapter 2, Shegam Ami Ha'oretz. Over there the Alter Rebbe explains that every Jew possesses a godly soul. And notwithstanding the fact that there are a multitude of godly souls and a multitude of levels of godly souls, nevertheless they're all tied, all the souls are tied to the original source, which is what? Chochma Ilah, Hashem's brain, as it were. Hashem's brain. Just like in the body, he brings the analogy from the body, that despite the fact that the entire body comes from that seminal point, but through the gestation in the mother's womb for 9 months, the differences in the body come about. You have feet and hands and even nails and hair, and a brain, of course, as well. So they all originate from this seminal point, which originates in the brain of the father. Right? So too, all the souls of the Jewish people, although there are so many multitude of souls, and they appear to be different, and they are indeed different as they are revealed, but nevertheless, they all draw from the child's brain, the sustenance of the child's brain, which in turn is still tied to the brain of the father. So too, Chochmei Elah, the brain of the father, that's a reference to Chochmei Elah, Hashem's brain as it were. The Mayach of the child is a reference to the brain, to the Rosh Alpha Yisrael, the heads of the Jewish people, and all the limbs in the parable are a reference to what? To the multitude of souls of the Jewish people in every generation. So through the fact that they're all tied to the Rosh Yisrael, the brain as it were, their brain, to the heads of the Jewish people in their generation, which is in turn tied to Chochmei Elah, so everybody is connected to Hashem himself. That's what the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya. So as the Rebbe says over here, as the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, Shigam Ami Ha'oretz, even the simple folk as it were, even the Rebbe says, even those that rebel and sin against the Talmidei Chachamim, the scholars of their generation, nevertheless, in his kashrusam imalakus, their connection to godliness, the Rosh Alpha Yisrael, is through the heads of the multitude of the Jewish people, like the parable of the son, who is drawn and is tied with the father's brain. So what comes out from all of this? What's the result? Through a Yid fulfilling Torah and mitzvahs, and through being tied and connected to the Moses of his generation, each Yid being tied to the Moshe of his generation. So through this, Nasa Yisrael, the Yidden, all of the Yidden become also in this mode, at this level of Zeh. And that is why all the Yidden could be called Amzu, notwithstanding the fact that Zeh is usually reserved to denote a very high level of godliness, which is only present, as it were, as you mentioned before, in Moshe Rabbeinu Nisnabe B'Zeh, Moshe Rabbeinu prophesied with Zeh, because it is indeed Moshe who reveals this in each and every Jew. But why in the feminine? Omnam, chapter 5, on page Reish Gimel, however, Bechinas Zeh Kvi Sheb'Yisrael, Nemra B'Lashon Nekeva. Nevertheless, although we now have established that it's possible for this level of Zeh to be revealed and present in each and every Jew, nevertheless, it is being said in this verse with a feminine expression, Amzu, this nation in the feminine. Why in the feminine? Will be inyan to explain this. the connection of a Yid with the very essence of Hashem through the study of Torah and the fulfillment of mitzvahs, who dafke kasher kima mitzvahs ein mitzad tam v'das v'hergesh adam, is specifically when the person fulfills Torah and mitzvahs not as a result of a rational conclusion and because of his own personal feeling, but rather beyond tam v'das, beyond rationality. Chassidus explains in a number of places, the Rebbe elaborates on that also in a number of places, that in the fulfillment of mitzvahs, there are two components. There are two, as it were, objectives. Two reasons for the fulfillment of mitzvahs. One is to fulfill Hashem's will, and the other is to bring about refinement in the person, and through that refinement in the world. The difference between the two is that when we talk about refinement, the different aspects of each mitzvah are important. One mitzvah refines one aspect, another mitzvah refines another aspect. For example, in the general sense, we know that the mitzvahs are generally divided in three categories, Eidus, Chukim, and Mishpatim. But let's, for the purpose of our discussion, divide them into two. Mitzvahs that we can understand the rationale behind them, and mitzvahs that are beyond rationality, beyond rationale. What is the purpose of a mitzvah that's beyond rationale? That is in order to address even those levels that are beyond the rationality of the person. The relationship between Hashem, or let's rather talk about this way. There are mitzvahs that are dependent, that are connected to the machshava, to the thought of the person. For example, when it says "V'ahavtas Hashem Elokecha," you should love Hashem. The Maggid of Mezrich asks. The Alter Rebbe brings it also in the introduction to Sharayich Devamunah. How is it possible to instruct somebody to love? You either love is a feeling. You can't instruct somebody to love. They either love or they don't. So he explains that the mitzvah is that you should contemplate ideas which will bring you to love Hashem. So that's a mitzvah that's related to the mind. Then there are mitzvahs that are related to the heart. Then there are mitzvahs that are related to action. Right? So these are the mitzvahs that are related to the different aspects of the person. And in that sense, the particular characteristics of the mitzvah are important. Then there's a general mitzvah, a general purpose in mitzvahs, and that is to fulfill Hashem's will. In the fulfillment of Hashem's will, there is no difference really if it's this mitzvah or another mitzvah. So the fulfillment of Hashem's will means Kabbalah Sel, to fulfill Hashem's will with the acceptance of yoke, which is beyond rationality. So that's what the Rebbe addresses here. He says like this: the true idea of a Yid becoming tied to the very essence of Hashem is through learning Torah and fulfilling mitzvahs because it's Hashem's will. And not because the person understands it, because the person has a feeling in it. Why? When one fulfills the mitzvahs because of reason, or because of feeling, even if the feeling is a feeling of holiness, because he loves Hashem, for example, or because he fears Hashem. In this way, yes, he fulfills the mitzvah and it's great, and it all emanates from holiness, but he does not become tied with the very essence of Hashem. Why? Because there is something present here besides the very essence of Hashem. Okay, Mevur Betanya, the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya in chapter Lamed Hey, that even a complete tzaddik who serves God with fear and with love that emanates from pleasure, he's not completely nullified before Hashem. Rather, he's something separate. Why? He is the one that fears God, and he is the one that loves God. There is somebody here that loves. And because there is some existence here besides the very essence of Hashem, therefore he doesn't tie himself completely with the very essence of Hashem, because he's tying himself through his rationality, he's tying himself through his feeling. The very essence of Hashem is completely beyond that. The very essence of Hashem is really and truly Eined Milvade. Hu Levadi Hu Ve'en Zelo, he's the only existence and entity. The Alter Rebbe goes on in Tanya and explains that's why you need Chochmah Vatzilis, because Chochmah Vatzilis is the closest existence that you get to existence of nothingness. The whole idea of Chochmah Vatzilis is, the whole personality of Chochmah Vatzilis is an entity that is totally bottled to godliness. Whereas when you say a tzaddik that loves and fears Hashem, the tzaddik has an other existence besides his love and fear of Hashem. So therefore, he ultimately cannot be truly tied to the very essence of Hashem if it's in this mode. If you really want to tie yourself to the very essence of Hashem, that is how they limit the Torah v'kiyuma mitzvahs, is through the learning of Torah and the fulfillment of mitzvahs. I'm sorry, when you want to tie yourself to the very essence of Hashem through the learning of Torah and through the fulfillment of mitzvahs, it's specifically when the fulfillment of Torah and mitzvahs does not result from a rational motivation or from a feeling in your heart, and without any motives, even without motives, holy motives. What could be a holy motive? A person could learn Torah and fulfill mitzvahs so that the Torah and mitzvahs should pull him out from the shell and from his bad condition. So even that motive is not high enough to tie the person to the very essence of Hashem. Why? Because it's still a motive. But rather, when one fulfills mitzvahs and learns Torah fulfills mitzvahs because of the acceptance of yoke. What does that mean? He fulfilled the mitzvahs and nothing. He has no motives. He's not concerned about anything. All he wants is to fulfill Hashem's will. How does that express itself? Where's the actual expression of that? Where does this express itself? It expresses itself when Shavidosa became a mitzvahs, when his serving Hashem in the fulfillment of mitzvahs, he serves Hashem in such a way that the easiest mitzvah and the harshest mitzvah are both equal to him. Why? Even though concerning this individual there are certain mitzvahs that this person considers as an easy mitzvah, which means they're not so important to him. And there are matters that by this individual they are chamurish, they're extremely important to him. Why? Because through them, for example, they will draw him out from the lowest abyss. Nevertheless, he fulfills all of them. But if that in a way that the easiest mitzvah and the harshest mitzvah are equal to him in his motivation. Why? Because his serving Hashem through the fulfillment of mitzvahs is not because of a rational motivation, but rather because of the acceptance of the yoke of Hashem, because he wants to fulfill Hashem's will, and because of Hashem's will, there's no difference between the easiest mitzvah and the harshest mitzvah.